What's up, Motorcaders? This is TJ. Welcome to another video. Of course, like and subscribe to this video. I answer all my comments, so hit me up if you see anything you like, don't like, or anything you want to see. I don't know what it is about funerals at Charles Smith & Sons Funeral Home that weird things happen. If you saw the video from last week, I got sent to the wrong Charles Smith & Sons Funeral Home, went to the other one. I had to shoot across town to get there on time. We were escorting a police officer, and luckily I got there in time. Everything worked out great. So anyway, that was a weird day with Charles Smith & Sons. So here it is today. I'm on another one, and yet another unexplainable event has happened. So this is a 2-bike service. My other bike is another senior rider just like me. And when we pull out, of course, everything is fine. So of course, as escorts, we rely on visibility to be seen so that we can stay safe. We can let the public know what's happening and let them know ahead of time what's happening. That's why we have the lights and we wear the bright green shirts and we have the sirens. So we use all of that for our safety, for the public safety, and for the safety of the procession. So in today's video, one of the escorts, actually just two of us, so the other escorts, his emergency lights, they stopped working. And they stopped working pretty early in the procession. You'll see when we pull out of the parking lot of the funeral home, they're working great. But as we start to proceed, once we get to like that first intersection, I noticed that they're not working anymore. So I spend the first two intersections actually trying to catch up to that bike because he gets by me that first intersection. And we're not on comms, we're not talking on the phone, so I just have to physically catch up to him to tell him that his lights aren't working. So it takes me a couple of intersections to get up to him, and by the time I get to him and tell him that, at that point it's on me, being the only working bike that has working lights, to stay in the front. And so I'm going to be doing a lot of extra work this service because I have to stay in front since I'm the only escort that has working emergency lights. And of course, when you're shutting down an intersection before the procession gets there, you have to be visible, you have to be seen, and it just helps you to take authority of the intersections with those working lights. So with that said, I'm going to keep him behind me for the rest of the procession. He gets in front for the first 1 or 2 intersections, but the next 15 intersections, it's going to be all me. So a lot of work today. It's fun, of course. I'm not complaining. I love the work. But we just had to make an adjustment based off of the mechanical issues with his bike. So enjoy, and we'll see you on the other side. Thanks for watching.
Your lights! Your lights!